Hello, welcome to World Report. I'm Jash Hirani. India's neighborhood has witnessed a series of massive civil uprising against the ruling elites, moments where ordinary people poured onto the streets with rage in their hearts against those in power. Protesters stormed official residences, government offices, and even parliaments, unleashing complete chaos. In each case, the incumbent leadership was pushed to the brink, forced to flee, and fresh elections had to be announced. The first such eruption was seen in 2022 in Sri Lanka against the then president Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who ruled the country for 2 years and 7 months before being ousted. His brother Mahinda Rajapaksa had incidentally ruled Sri Lanka for 9 years and 1 month. In 2022, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa was driven out by the fury of the Sri Lankan people. He fled the country following massive nationwide protest after Sri Lanka was hit by its worst economic crisis in modern history. Mahinda, incidentally, was evacuated by the military from his besieged Colombo residence to the Trincomalee naval base for his safety. Then came Bangladesh. Incumbent Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of the Awami League secured a landslide victory in the 2024 elections that were boycotted by major opposition parties such as the BNP. But within days, massive student protests engulfed the country, pushing Bangladesh into chaos. The unrest intensified to such an extent that Hasina was forced to leave the country and take refuge in India, where she has remained since then. Then there was Nepal. After elections were announced in 2024, KP Sharma Oli, who had ruled Nepal for a considerable period of time, was once again elected as the Prime Minister of Nepal. But slowly and steadily, massive public discomfort began brewing, especially among the youth, or Gen Zs as they were popularly called. Nepal too soon found itself gripped by large-scale protests, which later intensified due to social media ban and allegations of rampant corruption within the system. Public anger deepened when ordinary citizens saw the children of politicians enjoying lavish lifestyles while the country's youth struggled with poor economic conditions and shrinking opportunities. The extravagant lifestyle of the political class strengthened the corruption narrative across Nepal, and what began as anger soon exploded into an outright fury. Leaders were allegedly dragged out of their homes and brutally beaten. Houses were set ablaze. Even Nepal's parliament was attacked and set on fire, with horrifying visuals emerging from throughout the country. Eventually, KP Sharma Oli was forced to resign in September 2025, following which a caretaker government led by interim Prime Minister Sushila Karki took charge. Fresh elections were announced this year, and a young 36-year-old leader named Balendra Shah, popularly known as Balen Shah, a rapper turned politician, was elected as the new Prime Minister of Nepal. While all these protests and waves of civil unrest were unfolding across India's neighborhood, a constitutional coup was also taking place in Pakistan. But unlike the countries mentioned earlier, where public anger led to leaders being thrown out and fresh elections being announced, Pakistan functions a little differently. In every other case, the people eventually got a chance to vote again after the unrest. But in Pakistan, democracy often seems less like the rule of the people and more like a carefully scripted stage performance where real directors sit somewhere else. Elections may happen, governments may change, but the power structure remains the same. But Pakistan's political circus deserves a separate episode altogether. For now, let's focus on Nepal, the topic in hand. Balen Shah, before being sworn in as the Prime Minister of Nepal, was the mayor of the capital city Kathmandu for 3 years. Shah later joined the Rashtriya Swatantra Party as its prime ministerial candidate, winning a landslide victory in the elections, falling merely 2 seats short of the two-thirds majority. After assuming office, Shah decided that he won't embark upon any foreign trip for a year. Shah had released a song before taking office, which was filled with optimism about the future of Nepal. Undivided Nepali, this time history is being made. were the lyrics of the song, and Shah got 2 million views within just 2 hours of the song's release. He called out corruption and many other social issues in Nepal, many of which were also among the reasons for the uprising. While Shah's rise to power came with considerable momentum, tensions between India and Nepal surfaced within weeks of his government taking office. The Balen Shah led administration in Kathmandu, which had been in power for just over a month, raised objections to India and China's plans to conduct the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra through the Lipulekh Pass, a strategic Himalayan border pass at the trijunction of India-China-Nepal. Responding to Nepal's concerns, India stated that such claims were neither justified nor based on historical facts and evidence. While reiterating its willingness for constructive interaction with Nepal, the Lipulekh Pass has long remained a disputed territory, with Nepal repeatedly opposing India and China's efforts to facilitate trade and pilgrimage routes through that area. Nepal's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said, "The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has drawn the attention of various media outlets to the questions and concerns raised regarding the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, which is said to be conducted between India and China via Nepal's Lipulekh territory." MEA official spokesperson Randir Jaiswal responded saying, "India's position in this regard has been consistent and clear. Lipulekh Pass has been a long-standing route for the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra since 1954, and the Yatra through this route has been going on for decades. This is not a new development. As regards to territorial claims, India has consistently maintained that such claims are neither justified nor based on historical facts and evidence. Such unilateral artificial enlargement of territorial claims is untenable. India remains open to constructive interaction with Nepal on all border issues in the bilateral relationship, including resolving agreed outstanding boundary issues through the dialogue and diplomacy." The growing friction between India and Nepal became more evident after Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri's proposed visit to Kathmandu was postponed. Misri was scheduled to undertake a 2-day visit to Nepal on May 11 and 12, but Nepalese media reported that the trip had been deferred, a development later confirmed by the Nepal government as well. The visit was being viewed as a key diplomatic outreach by New Delhi to engage with Nepal's newly formed government, understand its priorities, and lay down the groundwork for future high-level bilateral engagements. Discussions surrounding a possible visit by Nepal Prime Minister Balendra Shah to India were also expected to feature prominently during the trip. However, reports suggest that Prime Minister Shah declined to meet Misri, believing that engagement should take place only with officials of equal stature. Shah has, in recent weeks, displayed reluctance in meeting visiting foreign officials below the rank of the foreign minister. Last week, during the visit of the US Foreign Envoy for South and Central Asia, Sergio Gore, Shah did not hold talks with him, while Gore instead met Foreign Minister Shishir Kanhal and Finance Minister Swarnim Wagle. Shah is also said to have earlier declined a meeting with US Assistant Secretary of State S. Paul Kapoor. Misri's visit had been planned at the invitation of his Nepalese counterpart Amrit Bahadur Rai and was also meant to follow up on discussions held between External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Nepal Foreign Minister Shishir Kanhal in April on the sidelines of the 9th Indian Ocean Conference in Mauritius. During those talks, both sides reviewed ongoing projects and programs while exploring the possibility of high-level visits in the near future. As part of the Kathmandu visit, Misri was expected to call on Prime Minister Balen Shah and formally hand over an invitation for him to visit India. However, reports say Shah had conveyed to his close aides that he does not intend to undertake any foreign visit in the near future. Coming back to the Lipulekh row, in 2023, when Balen Shah was the mayor of Kathmandu, he had cancelled his trip to China, and the reason was same even then. Shah argued Nepal introduced a fresh map featuring Lipulekh, Limpiadura and Kalapani. Yet, China's Ministry of Natural Resources recently unveiled a map of Nepal devoid of these regions, adhering to the prior map. We consider this a breach of our sovereignty as it depicts Nepali territory as a part of India without any consultation with Nepal. Consequently, I have made the ethical choice today to cancel my 5-day visit to China, which was extended as a courtesy. When Balen Shah won a landslide victory, there was hope here in India that unlike KP Sharma Oli, whose foreign policy leaned towards China, Shah would be more inclined towards India. Now why do I say this? When Shah was preparing for elections, after the debacle of Oli, he had released his manifesto in which he removed the China-funded Belt and Road Initiative Industrial Park project from it. He cited that the project was too close to India's Siliguri corridor, and considering the diplomatic sensitivities between India and Nepal, Shah decided to delete the project. This was welcomed in India and high expectations were set from the Balen Shah government following his landslide victory until this Vikram Misri episode. Now, what does the Nepalese intelligentsia make of this behavior by Prime Minister Balen Shah, particularly his refusal to meet leaders or representatives from other nations? A prominent newspaper in Nepal, the Kathmandu Times, published an editorial a few days ago which said the following. The editorial starts with, Prime Minister's policy of not meeting foreign officials needs more nuance. On assuming office, Prime Minister Balendra Shah set an important precedent by jointly briefing foreign ambassadors on the new government's priorities. Earlier ambassadors, especially from powerful countries, were often seen making a beeline to the private residence of the new Nepali Prime Minister. There was no institutional record of such meetings which were being held without representation from the foreign ministry. Even at other times, resident envoys of major powers like India, China, and the US sought and easily obtained such off-the-record audiences with the executive head. Such meetings focused more on building interpersonal ties rather than on improving bilateral relations. This created a conflict of interest. Easy access of foreign diplomats to the private quarters of our top state officials has over the years been corrosive to Nepali national interest. But no one before Balen Shah had dared to draw a red line. This is why the new Prime Minister's initiative to enforce a strict diplomatic code of conduct came as a breath of fresh air in the Nepali diplomacy. Yet we believe a sense of proportion is also warranted. Prime Minister Balen Shah has not only declined to individually meet foreign envoys but also some top visiting officials. Interestingly, both in the cases of Misri and Gore, other members of the cabinet like Swarnim Wagle and Shishir Kanhal had urged Shah to reconsider his decision. But Shah was firm on his stand. Context is vital. Misri was coming to Nepal to officially invite Shah to visit Nepal on behalf of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Nepali Prime Minister had earlier accepted an unofficial invitation and preparations were underway in both Kathmandu and New Delhi for Shah's visit. Yet, it was later revealed that Prime Minister Shah would not be making any foreign visit for a year. India must understandably feel snubbed. Even in case of Gore, who has President Trump's mandate to engage top government officials in the region, he was in Nepal after meeting in the capacity of a top official of the Trump administration in South Asia. The Prime Minister and the King of Bhutan, as well as the President of Sri Lanka. In other words, Shah can and should refrain from meeting every foreign official who arrives in Nepal. Such casual meetings only degrade the image of the highest office in the land. Yet, he should also be mindful that Nepal's close friends do not feel offended and the country's interests are not compromised in the process. As ministers, Wagle and Kanhal must also have advised Shah. Nepal occupies a precarious geopolitical landscape and preserving its sovereignty entails maintaining a delicate balance with outside powers, especially India and China, as well as sky neighbor the US. Just as the Nepali state should not be perceived as weak by acceding to every request of foreign officials, it cannot be seen as aloof or unmindful of the interests and sensitivities of Nepal's important partners. Balendra Shah's geopolitical rise cannot be understood without understanding the nationalist wave that catapulted him into prominence. Now, what I'm going to explain about Balen Shah is the perception he holds in his country. This does not mean I'm justifying his actions in any way. My full analysis of this entire situation will come later in the video. Shah did not emerge from Nepal's traditional political establishment. He emerged from a wave of angry Gen Z nationalism that saw the ruling elite as deeply corrupt, incompetent, and disconnected from the aspirations of ordinary Nepalis. His rise was built on anti-establishment sentiment, street energy, and a carefully cultivated image of a nationalist outsider who would rescue Nepal from decades of political decay. Even his rap songs during the protest movement reflected this anger, portraying the establishment as a parasitic and himself as the voice of the frustrated generation yearning for national revival. And this nationalist foundation is crucial to understand Balen Shah's worldview today. Like many nationalist leaders across the world, Shah appears to view Nepal not merely as a small Himalayan state trapped between two giants, but as an independent regional actor that must resist domination from both India and China. This explains his visible discomfort with appearing too close to either power. His decision to avoid foreign visits for an extended period, his cautious diplomatic posture, and even reports that Chinese ambassador Zhang Maoming struggled to secure a one-on-one meeting with him all point towards a leader trying to maintain deliberate distance from every major bloc, India, China, and even the United States. But this is where Balen Shah's nationalism begins to drift into strategic isolation. Nationalism without economic strength eventually becomes symbolism without leverage. Nepal today is not operating from a position of strategic abundance. It is a country still struggling with economic fragility, institutional corruption, unemployment, and dependency on external assistance, the very issues Balen Shah himself highlighted during the protest movement. A state that relies heavily on foreign aid, trade access, remittances, and regional cooperation cannot conduct foreign policy as though it possesses the leverage of a major power. India alone provides Nepal assistance worth billions of rupees annually, while China continues expanding its economic footprint through infrastructure and strategic investments. In such a reality, projecting rigid equidistant nationalism without corresponding economic or geopolitical power risks turning foreign policy into performative posturing rather than pragmatic statecraft. Balen Shah seems determined to showcase Nepal's sovereignty through visible strategic aloofness, but sovereignty is not demonstrated merely by keeping major powers at arm's length. It is demonstrated by extracting maximum national benefit while carefully balancing relationships. Smart small states survive through strategic sophistication and not emotional nationalism. If Shah truly wants Nepal to maintain an independent and balanced foreign policy between India, China, and the West, he will eventually have to move beyond protest-era nationalism and embrace hard geopolitical realism. Otherwise, the same nationalist energy that brought him to power may end up isolating Nepal diplomatically while offering little economic gain in return. If Balen Shah genuinely wants to resolve the Lipulekh Pass dispute and the broader border issue with India, he will have to maintain a stable and constructive rapport with New Delhi. Bangladesh under Sheikh Hasina demonstrated this through the successful resolution of the long-pending enclave dispute with India via the land boundary agreement. Complex border issues are not resolved through public posturing or economic distance, but through sustained political trust, engagement, and continuity in bilateral relations. At home too, Prime Minister Balen Shah has displayed similar behavior. Shah rose to power on the promise of accountability and anti-establishment nationalism. But now, more than a month after taking oath, Shah has not addressed parliament despite his office being barely 50 meters away from the house. This perhaps is the arrogance of a leader empowered by sweeping two-thirds majority, a belief that electoral victory alone is enough without the constant need for accountability at home and strategic engagement abroad. Let's see how Balen Shah's tenure turns out to be. That's all for today's World Report. Till I see you next time, that's next Saturday at 8 pm with another topic in hand. Thanks for watching.